Hi, this is George Sullivan. I'd like to thank Mr. Dave Hardy for getting this film for me. We're going to talk about strategy. The question was, how does strategic planning affect management operations to include leadership, organizational structure, and financial performance? We're going to go through and look at that. Those are our principles. Leadership, it's very important that the senior leadership, they get involved in preparing their junior leaders to take action and get the process improvement completed and measured and get some data from it. One thing that good leadership does, they set the example and they provide direction, and also to offer awards and incentives for good performance. Empowerment of people in the organization at all levels and always metrics driven. Obstacles such as distractions, training distractions, the actual process improvement plan taking too long, junior leaders not being trained properly, and key leadership not really providing direction. Success is that the senior leadership was actually trained to perform because they had past experience, either from performing the job or from school. Leadership examples, Southwest Airline, of course, with passengers on the plane, they can figure out how many passengers that need to ride per plane, and then they can cost analysis that procedure. FedEx, the timing of coordinating the packages. Also, the city of Charlotte was a good example, how they improved. Organizational structure. Organizational structure is morally affected by management control systems involving either the centralized or the decentralized structures. Comparison of centralized, decentralized. This is a hospital corporation in which pretty much the same on insurance issues, Medicaid, Medicare, any type of managed care. A few difference in the competitive dispersion, but pretty much even. Here again, autonomy, accountability, control, or influence, depends on what you look at. Usually the decentralized usually looks at the financial aspect, and the centralized looks at the community aspect. Mission and value pretty much the same for centralized, one size fits all. Decentralized, every individual business unit has its own mission statement and values. The decentralized uses the reports to express the financial aspects, and the centralized uses their reports for operating efficiency. Organizational structure, planning really doesn't affect it. It does influence it. What really is the primary factor on this organizational structure is the management controls. Financial performance, they want to look at validity. We're going to look at conversion validity on a hospital corporation, on how they would measure comparison to firm health, which would be the company aspect, and how the shareholders are going to be affected. They use different aspects. The firm health is going to be using like a return on investment, return on assets, compared to the shareholder is going to be often worried about stock returns and return on capital. Firm financial strategy. They pretty much want to know, what does the community want and need. Time frame for any type of strategic plan, 3 to 7 years, and they process improvements they can use for healthcare. E-prescribing is popular because it cuts down the time. It will increase both cost and access for the patient and the provider. Case studies. The Mecklenburg County case, very important. It deals with the city of Charlotte, how they was a really problemsome county. They were over budget, too much staff, and they streamlined everything. They got everything on board with what was called M4R management for review, and they really strive to make a lot of improvements. Tokyo is the forest industry. They had the worst year they ever had in 60-something years. They came back and they improved, and of course the AMED with the implementation of the balanced scorecard for the medical command. See what the Mecklenburg County managing for results, that was M4R. They use the green, amber, red system to measure and track to see which departments were lacking and needed to have more attention. Tolco is the forest industry. They use a 2 to 6 year strategy map, large area, and they made much strides. The medical corps, the AMED, actually I was part of this project, and I worked as one of the as the senior enlisted advisor for the balanced scorecard implementation, and the whole idea was to change the concept of the medical command, in which we're not going to use the old practices. We're going to convert them into something new, and we were actually MedCom was the first to ever use the balanced scorecard for a hospital setting. 2 interviews. Jeffrey Nye had an excellent interview. Talked about the future of pharmacy. It's always uncertain. We never know what's going to happen. Base closes, what we want to do. But one thing that we're going to have to do, we're going to have to be able to purchase the medication at a cost savings and such when we use good contract compliance and smart buying. Process improvements always affect cost, access, and quality. The optimum triangle of the balanced scorecard concept. We always want to try to improve one side of the triangle. Usually if you improve one side of the triangle, there's problems with the other side. But that's just the way it is. You're going to have to suffer on one side. Rebecca McGinnis talked about the budgeting aspects, how we get our money from MedCom, who gets it, how many. They usually base it off of last year's money. They look at it and they see, and the pharmacy plays a big part in that, because if the pharmacy overspends, then the hospital is going to be big deficit. Conclusion: how does the strategic planning affect these management principles? Leadership, quite a lot. The senior leadership is always the driving factor in any type of process improvement. Good examples here: Mecklenburg County, that's Charlotte; Tokyo Industry with the forest industry, and of course AMED. Organizational structure is more of management control system. Strategy does affect it a lot. It influences both sides, centralized, decentralized, but the main factor of that is how the management control system is going to be projected. Financial performance is everything with strategy is going to deal with money. And we, after interviews with Jeffrey Nye and Rebecca McGinnis, showed that one thing that we have to do is always be prepared to improve in the financial aspect. Here on the, I have a, this is a balance scorecard that I actually did for pharmacy support department where I work at, and where I took the initiatives and got the measurements and what the goal, the targets, the goal, the objective, and that's kind of like the strategy there running up the left. That's the prospectus. And bibliography had quite a few resources there, and that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.